Welcome to our channel Elimika Mtandaoni. My name is Agustino Mogosi. This is the second lecture on decision and executive support systems. We are still in the topic of managers and decision making. Today we'll be talking about the nature of managers' work. In fact, to better understand the support information systems can give to managers, it is useful to look at the nature of managers' work. Mintzberg suggested that managers, in order for managers to perform better, there are some roles that are classified into three categories. In management, managers have got several roles. The first one is interpersonal roles. The second one is informational. The third one is decision roles. So these are the major roles for managers. While a manager performs some interpersonal roles, here is where he acts as a figurehead, then he acts as a leader, and he acts as a liaison. So these three roles, they fall under a major role that is called the interpersonal. But managers also act in a role of informational role, where here the manager acts as a monitor, a manager acts as a disseminator, and he acts as a spokesperson for the organization. So he does monitoring, dissemination, and speaking on behalf of the organization. It is with another role that is called the decision, a very important role that is called the decision, where a manager acts as an entrepreneur. Manager also acts as a disturbance handler, and he acts as resource locator, and again he acts as a negotiator. So this makes a total of 10 major roles that have been classified into three categories. So to perform all these roles, managers actually need information that is delivered efficiently and in a timely manner using computers, mobile phones, and even personal digital assistants. This kind of information is then delivered by computers that function as servers, generally via web technology. So there might be a kind of computer somewhere here and an internet. So the information is delivered via the World Wide Web. So these computers here are called servers, where several informations are stored, and managers can access such information via the World Wide Web. In addition to obtaining information necessary to better perform their roles, these managers use computers and mobile phones directly to support and improve decision making, which is a key part that is part of the most of these roles. So if you look at all the roles of managers being informational, decisional, or interpersonal, then decision making is the key part to those. Now, after we have seen that about managers, then now let us look on managerial decision making and information systems. Let us not begin to examine the two important topics of managerial decision making and information system. Actually, what is management? Management is the process by which organizational goals are achieved using resources. That means if you are a manager, then you are given resources. Speaking of resources, resources can be people, or can be some equipments within the organization, can be the buildings, the computers, the telecommunication networks, all those are regarded as resources. So these managers actually know how to utilize these resources so that they can increase the productivity of the organization. So resources are considered as input in order to attain goals that is viewed as output of the process. That means if this is the organization, then the organization is given resources and we are expecting to get some outputs. So the resources are taken as inputs. So the degree of success of the organization and the manager's job is often measured by the ratio of output and inputs. So the ratio of output and input is what we call productivity. So this degree of success of organization and managerial job is measured by that ratio of outputs and the input, and that ratio is what we call productivity. But productivity determines the well-being of organization and its members, but the level of productivity or the success of management depends on the performance of managerial functions. You know that managerial functions include planning. It includes organizing. These are the managerial functions. Organizing, it includes directing, and it includes controlling. So all these are the managerial functions. So the level of productivity of management depends on the performance of managers' functions. So how these functions are performed, then that will determine the level of productivity. Therefore, to perform their functions, these planning, organizing, directing, and controlling, then managers are engaged in a continuous process of making decisions. So managers engage themselves in making decisions, and all the managerial activities that we have seen, they revolve around decision making. So decision making is very important for managers. Then the manager is primarily a decision maker. So if you are a manager, then expect that you be taken as a decision maker. For years, these managers have been considered decision making purely as an art. It is taken as a talent that is acquired over a long period of time through experience, learning by trial and error. So but management was considered that art because a variety of individual styles could be used in approaching and successful solving the same types of managerial problems over and over. These styles were often based on creativity, they were based on judgment and intuition and experience, rather than on systematic quantitative methods that are grounded in a scientific approach. However, decision making today is more complicated. We say that decision making in today's world is more complicated. It is more complicated. Why it is that much complicated? Why is it so complicated? It is complicated because the number of available alternatives. That means if you were to choose between A, B, C, at first, if you have only 3 choices, then this is easy for you to say, okay, it can be A or it can be B. But if you have several other alternatives, that is until N alternatives, the number of available alternatives, if it becomes much larger than ever before, then that makes the process of decision making to be more complex. So because of this, because of the improved technology and communication systems, that means much data comes in and they come at a greater speed. More data and information becomes available. Hence, there are more alternatives that are identified and explored. So the analysis of such data that are at greater speed, then it needs time and thought. And in that case, the cost of making errors can be large because of the complexity and the magnitude of operations. So automation and chain reaction that an error can cause in many parts of the organization makes it more and more complicated. That means nowadays a lot of data comes into an organization because we have a lot of computerized systems working, the TPSs. So a lot of data comes in, and in that case, decision makings become more difficult. There are continuous changes in the fluctuating environment and more uncertainty in several impacting elements. Therefore, decision must be made quickly to respond to the market. What should we do then? You have to note one thing. Because of these trends and changes, then it is nearly impossible to rely on trial and error and error like before. So that approach, the trial and error approach to management, especially to making set decisions, it becomes very tough and complicated. So there are several, apart from this, there are several factors that affect decision making. The first one that we have mentioned is technology. We have talked about technology. So the improvement of technology makes more data comes in. But another factor that affects decision making is structural complexity. Structural complexity is another decision. Another factor. Another factor is international markets. Also, political stability. Another one is consumerism and government intervention, even changes and fluctuations. So all these factors make decision making to be more complex. So what's the solution then? The solution is we have to use tools and techniques to support decision making. So using tools and techniques to support decision making can be extremely rewarding in making effective decisions. So here is where we introduce information systems. So information systems comes in to help to reduce the complication that is caused by these factors that make decision making to be more complex. And the first main factor is the improvement of technology. That means a lot of data comes in and decision making requires a quick solution. So in order to increase the speed in decision making, then we have to introduce tools and techniques for decision making. That is, we have to introduce decision support systems. So we are still in the first topic where we are talking about managerial nature of managerial work. So this is the end of the second lecture. In the third lecture, we'll be talking about managers and computer support. So thank you for following Elimika Mtandaoni. My name is Agustino Mogosi and this is Elimika Mtandaoni. Thank you very, very much.